When I was in my early 20s, I was a newspaper journalist, and I was often set out on homicide stories, as well as other death and mayhem type incidents. Back in those days, I slept with a police scanner next to my bed. One day, it was a very slow news day in the newsroom, and our editor received a random call that a local man saw the Virgin Mary in the wax that had dripped down from his candle. I was the lucky reporter sent out to that scene. The man led the photographer and me into a candlelit back bedroom. His wife steered clear of us. He showed us the candle, wax dripping all across the top of the dresser. He pointed out the image of Mary confidently and proudly. We stood staring at the goopy mess of candle wax, which was growing thicker from burning for days and days, apparently. No matter how hard I studied it, I couldn't see the Virgin Mary in that wax. I remember standing in that dark bedroom of the tiny house, moving every which way to see the wax from different angles, willing the Virgin Mary to appear to me. The photographer and I eventually looked at each other and shrugged, dying of laughter on the inside, serious on the outside. We left with no story. The man's wife took him to see a doctor that same day. Oh, my goddess. Fast forward a decade or so to that moment when I first stepped foot in the doors of our Unitarian Universalist sanctuary in York. I was what you might call an a-religious, agnostic, adjacent atheist. Do you want me to say that again? An a-religious, agnostic, adjacent atheist. I did not want to be an atheist. Something deep within me knew there was something more to believe in. I wanted to be a believer in something, but not the thing that everyone else was calling Lord or God, especially the masculine form found in traditional religions. I was much too anti-authoritarian for that, much too feminist. But what could I believe in? Well, that was more than 22 years ago. And in fact, my then fiance, now husband, and I found the UU Church by signing up for a class called Building Your Own Theology, BYOT. I don't remember my credo from that time. I think I've lost it. It got moved around too far, but I know it had something to do with nature, stars, being good people on earth these days. But a lot has changed in that time. I have changed a lot in that time. We got married, we coped with and managed through infertility, we became parents of twin girls in 2006, and then in that same year, my mother and the rest of my family began uprooting and moved 700 miles away. I experienced deep grief, which I didn't know was grief at the time, from that loss, that abandonment, that rejection, that loss of a mother figure in my present everyday life. For years, I tried to search for a mother figure to fill that God-sized hole inside of me. Now, I'm facing a new kind of loss. Our daughters, who turned 18 in January, will graduate this May, and I will not cry. They will start college this August. Everything is changing. Oh, my goddess. I need to be a spiritual ninja to manage everything in motion in the midst of change this year. And I don't think I'm alone. I need a force, an energy beyond myself to have faith to help me see that everything is going to be okay, that our girls will be okay and held and safe and happy. I return to the scary, confusing, dark moments of the early pandemic when our congregation could not gather and when I began collecting, or rather hoarding, poetry, particularly spiritual poems that spoke to my God-sized hole. That's when I discovered the Divine Mother and gave myself permission to start studying the feminine divine. That's also when I realized I wasn't the only one who longed for this maternal force of good, a mother God, the divine goddess. Now, let me be really clear. I am not an expert in divine feminine theology, nor am I an expert in any of the goddesses that have floated in stories upon stories since the beginning of time. But I am an expert in what feels true for me and what feels connected. And the dude language just doesn't work for me, especially right now in this year of change, in this year of worry of what's ahead. Believe it or not, Some of you may know this. In Unitarian Universalist theology, the feminine divine isn't prominent, but it's not been totally ignored. Many years ago, a UU curriculum called Cakes for the Queen of Heaven was created and used, and including at our York congregation. It was created because there was an idea that women needed to honor their bodies, needed to honor the relationship between themselves and their mothers, and they needed to reclaim their power. That book is on Amazon, if you're interested. I just learned that, if you want to find it. But it's not just UU women or pagans who feel a calling toward honoring the goddess. Countless poets and spiritual writers have also found sanctuary in this idea as God as mother. Andrew Harvey has written the book Return of the Mother, and his powerful prayer speaks to me. He writes, "Divine Mother, give me your eyes so I can see myself through them and see how holy in your eyes is my soul, and how holy in your eyes is my mind, and how holy in your eyes is my heart, and how holy and sacred in your eyes is my body. Help me be as merciful and generous with myself as you would always want me to be. Help me honor myself as I have found, to my amazement, you honor me. Help me live and work from the place of peace and balance and compassion from which you live and work and help. Help me in these ways, Mother, so I can at last truly become the instrument you need me to become. Divine Mother, please give me your trust so I can lead with a sacred knowing each day, a trust that I can carry with me each breath. Please give me your eyes so I can see for myself just how safe and healthy I am. Oh, my goddess. War is on the horizon. And not just that in the other lands, such as the Middle East, where so much heartbreak and trauma is unfolding. We can't help but whisper, oh my goddess, on the daily. But rather, a war of the hearts will be here before we know it as we grow closer to Election Day in our own country. An ethical war that divides and crushes and smothers love. A war that stirs up hatred and anger and divisiveness. Oh, my goddess. And women, the war on the women and their bodies, and the war on our trans friends and neighbors, and the harm that is being done out of hate, not love, that is destroying relationships and families and communities. It's in these times we can send up prayers like the Reluctant Prayer by Caitlin Hardy Shetler, one of those prayers that I found during the pandemic. She writes, God is a mother, and with that sentence, the world stops. The world always stops when woman and the divine commingle, as if the feminine dilutes the miraculous, when in reality it embodies it. She writes a little bit later in this poem, but when God becomes mother, she is neither quiet or compliant. She leads confidently. She questions authority. She commands respect, which might be the problem. She ends the poem with, because seeing God as mother is one step closer to seeing God in me, and it's in that I am truly born again. In times such as these, when conflict is high, division is certain, and chaos is abound, we need to call on and empower the divine feminine more than ever, with concepts like remembering the thread of interconnectedness that runs through us all. Moving through our lives and time with a greater understanding of cyclical rhythms and seasonal patterns, honoring the balance between the masculine and the feminine. Prioritizing rituals that honor the body and connecting with nature. Remembering that our authentic selves should make space for connection, creativity, and nurturing ourselves and each other just as much as producing and getting things done. For me right now in this year of change, I'm focusing on calling in Ellen of the Ways, the goddess of change. A Celtic goddess who has been worshipped as far back as Paleolithic times and who is elusive, shimmering, changeable. She endures through the ages, shifting into what each time needs her to be. Wouldn't that be amazing? Love that. She's an antlered goddess, which I had a picture of. I'll have to see if I find it. We can call on Ellen of the Ways to protect us in our journeys because she rules the essential element of motion and change. Ellen of the Ways guides us on the pathways of movement toward something new, toward uncertainty. Whatever her name or her archetype, we can call on her. Christianity's Mary Magdalene, Jewish mysticism's Shekinah, Catholicism's Black Madonna, Hinduism's Kali Ma, and Buddhism's Green Tara. Athena, Kuan Yin. The names are countless. To honor the goddess, the mother, the feminine, you can set up an altar for Mother, for Mary, for Mother Earth, for any other divine mother figure that works for you in your home, your office, your studio. You can even light a candle for days and see if any visions of the Divine Mother show up. You can begin with yourself, with honoring your intuition and your connection to nature and the divine. And take time to honor your ancestors and being present with the wisdom within you right now. We can all choose to call in divine love in all the moments of our lives, with those we love, with our own imperfections and mistakes, with other people's mistakes and imperfections, and yes, through the volatile times ahead. We can allow ourselves to shapeshift as needed through the changes unfolding by simply being our authentic, wild, untamed, questioning, and curious selves. We can also remember that when things get hard, and they will always get hard, all we have to do is close our eyes, put our hands over our heart, and whisper, "Oh, my goddess." And she will be there in a flash.